What is up, everybody? What is up? Hopefully, everybody's having a great day, great week, whatever week it is that you listen to this podcast on. I'm starting in a few weeks. I'm going to be starting another podcast, talking about my travel adventures and stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Um, I'm saying that because I'm sitting in traffic right now. I'm trying to get someplace. It's the middle of the day, and I just can't take that anymore. I just can't take it. I can't take it. I did my time in the corporate world. I'll talk about this all the time. I did my time. I did my time in the police department. I did my time sitting in traffic, and I don't want to do it anymore. Here I am doing it. So I cannot wait to sit on some island somewhere with nothing to do all day, or just open up my laptop and just teach my online classes. That's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm done. I'm done with this. Done with this. All right, so that's me on my soapbox there. So let's get into what you tuned in here for, and that's to talk about this balloon popping show and the extravaganza that came out with a guy. I believe his name is Aaron Coates, and let's just talk about that. So I'm gonna play a short clip, and I got this from I just took this from a guy named J.R. Wisdom, so you'll see him on the bottom of the screen there. So let's just let's pause right here and let's watch that.
Name it.
All right, so we're back from watching that, and listen. Here's what I want. Here's some things I want it to be a key takeaway. I'm trying to make you the best version of yourself. I'm trying to be the best version of myself, whatever that means. I'm trying to make you the best version of yourself, whatever that means for you. So I'm trying to say that, when you are a man and you are in a certain position, I'm trying to get you to understand that your maintenance of frame. That's one thing I always talked about. And I remember a captain when I got promoted to sergeant. When I got promoted to sergeant, a captain saw me, really interacting. It was a hot scene. We were kind of looking for somebody who was supposed to have kidnapped their girlfriend and had him at gunpoint. Had her at gunpoint. The 911 call wasn't clear. Therefore, if the 911 call isn't clear, right, that the information gets distorted and misrepresented along the way. So we weren't really sure what we were going for. So, and I was still thinking like a patrol officer, right? And the patrol officer's job is to go here, go there, do this, secure scenes, pick things up, put things down, do whatever, right? That's their job. Job as a supervisor is to coordinate, direct. You go over there, you stand here, you do this, you do that, right? That was my job now. That was my role. So a captain shows up and he starts telling me this. He told me this, right? And actually, the same captain had to tell me this a couple times because it wasn't sinking through my skull about my new role, my new responsibilities. But I remember this one particular. I mean, it happened a couple times, but I remember this one incident in particular. I'm like, man, he told me this. Why am I not getting this? So, sometimes we got to repeat things over and over and over again. And I'm bringing this up to say that this guy in this video did not exemplify the best example. Now, I only played a brief clip, and if you've watched this, the full clip, which you can find online, balloon prop show, Aaron Coates, Plumber, whatever, you can watch the full clip of this. And, I think that after a while, the ladies were getting after him. But I'm talking about I played the first initial reaction because that set the tone for me. It set the tone for me. I know people are going to disagree with this, but it set the tone. Now, the lady said what she said. But you don't have to respond in that way. He could have just said, okay, yes, ma'am, I appreciate it. The feeling's mutual, queen. Hey, it's all good. This is all you did me a favor and all this kind of stuff. Listen, man, I'm trying to tie all this in together is your response, your ability to maintain frame, your ability to understand your role, your ability to remain mature is on you. Life is 80%, or whatever they say, 80, 85, 90% of what happens to you. The other, or 10%, I should say, 10%, 20%, 15%, whatever people percentage that at, of what happens to you, and it's the other 80, 90% of how you respond to it. And I don't think that his response to the first, setting the tone was the best. That's my opinion. If I'm looking at this, and listen, I teach leadership classes. I teach people how to be the best versions of themselves. I'm saying that when you want to be a leader, protector, provider as a man, and you want to be whatever, you have to set the tone. You set the tone for the organization. I brought up the story about me being a sergeant because if I'm setting the tone as running around here doing the patrolman's job, then they don't have any direction, they don't have any guidance. They're looking for other people to do it. You have to be one stable spot and direct, guide, control, assess the scene, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm saying that this man I'm saying that he did not set the best tone. Now, the ladies after him, if you watch the full entire video, you will understand that they got after him. They kept popping balloons, and he kept going back and forth with them. And he finally hooks up with the one particular lady. Good for him. I don't know how the date went, or if they actually went out or whatever. I haven't followed up on any of that. I'm just going off of the social media frenzy that is this guy. So I want to take some things, really want to emphasize some things that we can learn from a takeaway. And the first is to respond correctly, to respond appropriately, to set the tone, even when people are nasty with us. I know this seems crazy, but if, again, in the leadership courses that I teach, I'm telling you, you have to set the tone for the organization. Somebody comes in your office slamming doors and this. Whoa, first of all, don't come in here slamming doors. We're going to sit down and we're going to have a rational conversation. That's how we're going to do things. I've taken interview interrogation classes. I'm speaking about how we get things done. So this is the tone setting. This is how we're going to do what we're going to do. This is how we're going to move. This is what's happening and all this kind of stuff, right? This is how we're going to do this. You set the tone. You would lead by example. What else do I want you to learn? I want you to learn as a man, and I understand ladies are watching this, and I appreciate that. This isn't really exclusively for men. These pieces of advice, but what I'm saying is, as a man, you need to understand that you have a target on your back. As a man, I think in America, as a man, you have a target on your back. In particular, black men, but I think that all men have a target on their back. The ladies on this show, or some ladies, not the ladies on the show, excuse me, ladies who are watching it or whatever, called this man's job over 500 times. Whether it's one person making the call 500 times, 10 ladies calling 50 times, whatever. And this man ended up getting fired. They didn't appreciate his pushing back. They didn't appreciate his attitude. They didn't appreciate his responses, and they called in and got him fired. I wonder if there's any, I'm not a lawyer, but I wonder if there's any recourse that he would have, legal recourse to that. I hope that he's looking into that. There's a lot of people who want to say a lot more there's a lot of ladies that say a lot more. There's a lot to be said about that, but there's a lot of targeting that's going on here, and I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate this man losing his job because you have a disagreement. And what I was going to say is there's a lot of people who want to speak up more but are afraid to, precisely for this reason, because they don't want their jobs to be targeted. They're scared to speak up because they don't want to be targeted. They don't want to be excluded. They don't want to be canceled. They don't want their names out there, all that type of thing. So it's really, really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that that happened. But I think that you have to watch your social media presence. And I'm constantly watching mine. Sometimes I type some things, and sometimes I'll delete it on different people's platforms and things because you don't want the headache. Whether you mean it to be insensitive, whether you mean it to be constructive, sometimes your intent is irrelevant. People can spin things and they can take things out of context. So you really have to be very, very careful about the comments and posts that you leave on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I think another thing that we should learn from this is that you're not going to please everyone at all times. You got to understand that you're not going to please everyone at all times. You should not come in there with an attitude that you're going to be impressive to everyone at all times, and that can be a blow to a man's ego. What do you mean? You know, I got this going on, I got that going on. And that was another thing about this guy, right? This is a guy who's working, right? This isn't some bum. Well, you know, with the so-called alleged dearth of good, eligible, available black men, why would you take this man out of the pool? By getting him fired. Why would you do that? I'm confused as to why people would do that. I'm confused by that. You know, this gender war that we have going on here, man. You if he's not for you, then that means he's not for anybody. He shouldn't be for anybody. You're going to call him and get him fired? Explain to me the logic behind that. He doesn't deserve to eat, to have the ability to create a family. I guess he was unmarried and didn't have kids. So he should never. I don't understand why. I don't understand why anybody would think that's a good idea. So you have to be very, very protective of yourself. You have to be very protective of yourself. And this man wrote that he was clout chasing and trying to be on these shows. Listen, you gotta. I seriously think that men ought to stay off of these type of shows. The pineapple show, the balloon pop show, even dating apps. Complete abstinence, complete abandonment of those shows, because they are exemplifying a very serious problem with between the genders, between the sexes, between men and women. Yeah, I recognize that this is probably all social media, but there's a taint and a strain of anger, animosity, and hatred. And I'm trying to figure that out, where it comes from, and trying to do something about it, or at least have an answer for it. But when you're calling people's jobs, right? It's one thing, you know. People always say to me, you know, they say it's every officer, right? When they think that they're performing inappropriately, we're gonna have your badge, get you fired. But that's in the performance of my duty. This guy's a plumber. You're gonna call the show and get him kicked out so he can't plumb? Do his plumbing work? I don't understand why anybody would think that that's a good idea. But there's some mean and vindictive people in this world. They are mean, they're hostile, they are vindictive, and they will get you hurt, they will get you fired, they will get you canceled, they will sue you, take your stuff. You have to be protective of who and what you are. You have to be protective of who and what you are. You have to be protective. So I just wanted to pop in here with that. Those are some of the things that I noticed. There's probably a lot more that I could say about it, but those are the biggest things that stood out to me. You have to be protective of who you are. Understand that there's a serious, whether it exists just a social media gender war, and you have to set the tone. You have to remain calm. You have to remain calm. And I didn't appreciate, the back and forth that they had on both sides. I think there was blame to be had on both sides. But when they got this guy fired, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much. That's a line they can't cross. It's a line that should not be crossed. There's a guy I listened to, T.S. Johnson. He and BGS Inmore, heard me mention that name before. They mentioned that this is what they're terming a black masculinist turn. In other words, where men are waking up to what's going on. One of the biggest turns that they said was the so-called Ice Cube effect, when the ladies on Fox Soul, queens of Fox Soul, or whatever they call themselves, Vivica Fox and a couple of other ladies, I can't remember their names. When Ice Cube was on the show and talking about his contract with Black America when Trump was running for, I think it was for re-election, and they said to him, the queens of the show said to Ice Cube, black women and black men don't have the same interests. I think another turn was Ebony K. Williams, where she said essentially the same thing, that black men and black women our voting patterns are not the same. We don't have the same political interests. And I think here's another one. You're going to call my job and get me fired because we have a banter back and forth, but which both people. It wasn't like he was just up there just attacking ladies. They started it, and he would jump in there. He at times too would say, okay, you don't qualify. You don't. Listen, man. And if the battle lines are, we're going to take it there. We're going to have a banter back and forth. But if the sisterhood is going to respond by getting you fired, what's the recourse that we should have some type of recourse? It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate that we've gotten to this place, and I don't like being here. I don't want to be here. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's terrible. I have a black daughter, I have a black son, and I'm a black man. And I don't want to be in this place where we don't like each other. And no matter what somebody did to me, I can't say no matter what, but I can think of very few instances where I would call somebody's job, particularly if they're not performing if they're not acting in the performance of their duty. Right? If I go to a store or to a bank and have a serious issue with the customer service, yeah, you don't deserve to work there. But if you and I get into an accident on the side of the road and we just start going back and forth, I'm not going to call your. If I find out you work for some bank or I'm not going to. Why would I call them and get you fired? But that's what they did. That's unfortunate, man. That's a blow. That's another blow, man. That I don't think that men can stand. I watched another video the other day talking about where women don't want to hire women CEOs don't want to hire ladies. I did a video about a black police chief on my other channel, LMH Consulting Service. I did a video about what a black chief didn't want to hire minority ladies, Hispanic and black. This is bad. This is bad. We're entering into some really, really dark territory concerning hirings, firings, people retaliating, all this type of stuff. So, but I just want to chime in with that. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, or anything I missed in this. What did you learn from watching that? Listen, you got to control yourself. You got to be protective of yourself concerning your stance and status in life and your job. And you have to really watch. You have to watch yourself. Protect yourself at all times. Watch your social media presence. Watch your presence. Watch the things you say, the things that you don't say, who you associate with. You really have to watch those types of things. It's really unfortunate that went down the path that it did. And I guess now some ladies from this guy's past trying to get in. They're also chasing clout. Oh yeah, he's controlling and doing video. Listen, I don't want to pay attention. I don't pay attention. I haven't watched any of that stuff. I'm not interested in all that. I'm interested in you become the best version of yourself and you taking necessary steps to protect yourself, to think clearly and level-headed, even when other people around you are not thinking clearly and level-headed, and when they're intentionally provoking you to behaving a certain way. You really have to watch that type of thing. Watch it. They would intentionally provoke you and then do underhand. I consider that to be underhanded tactics, calling this man's job over 500 times. It's underhanded. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Much love and peace, everyone.